a lot of people wind up in the Republican Party because of evangelical Christianity. So for Trump to have about a 30-point lead on religious leaders in the Republican Party, wow. So that tells you they got him above Jesus. I mean, remember the story that we did just last week where there's a famous evangelical leaders saying, now when we preach the gospel of Jesus, people are saying it's weak and Trump wouldn't like it. I mean, it is full-blown cult land now.
Okay, the new poll indicates that, so I'm gonna skip ahead to graphic 6 here, where this CBS News YouGov poll specifically asks, how they, like whether they feel who they trust the most, right? So let's take a look at the list. And if you see that among the top answers, you have Donald Trump coming in at 71%. And then coming in at number 2 is friends and family at 63%. But luckily, friends and family, Cenk, come before conservative media figures who come in at 56%. And they even trust conservative media figures more than religious leaders, who came in 4th at 42%.
Kind of activities that the Satanic Temple are doing within hours of Trump being declared president, our membership numbers really spiked. And if we looked at the metrics for our website and other kind of web activity, it was like a straight line upward on election night, because people realized that this was, if they viewed it as a joke before, it wasn't a joke anymore, and that the rise of theocracy was very real.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand just how big of a part the evangelical rights vote played in the election of Donald Trump. And we leave this out of the film because, frankly, we didn't want to look at his face. But it's sort of in the world around us, right? As much as Donald Trump himself is certainly not a believer in anything, the evangelical right really did a lot of work to elect him, and he's repaid them in various ways. And so I feel like the work the Satanic Temple is doing is particularly resonant now. I also think that we're in such dark political times that people who maybe typically wouldn't care what the Satanists have to say might be a little more open-minded in their desperation for answers. I
want to suggest something to you, and I'm going to try to couch this very carefully. And this is really just for people who believe in the reality of spiritual warfare. This is just for that people. So if you don't believe in the reality of spiritual warfare, you don't believe in Ephesians 6, and this next couple of minutes is not for you. But my point is, you look at Donald Trump, and there is something to me that is unnatural about his level of support. Something there that you cannot explain based on the world that we can see, based on natural causes, based on what is rational and logical and understandable. There is something that is beyond the world of nature that's going on there to prop him up and to create this inexplicable obsession that people have with him, and this exaggerated support for people that really ought to see through what he's about. It's a mystery to me that evangelical Christians in particular would be so enamored with Donald Trump. We know that not every spirit that's out there in the unseen world is a friendly spirit. There are spirits out there that mean us harm, that mean our country harm. And politics, this power comes from God. Let's not forget that every bit of political power comes from God. Who is going to be interested in getting their hands on the levers of God's power? It's going to be Satan. He's going to be all over that. He's going to try to make sure that the man of his choosing has God's political power to exercise. And we as believers need to have our eyes open to that possibility. And we need to be praying as intelligently and clear-headedly as we can that God's man would be elevated to the White House.
If you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
If you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before. And I'll be honest, I didn't know if this was Trump's actual voice or AI, but then it was reposted by Donald Trump, meaning it doesn't matter if he said it because Trump then went and endorsed it. He took away any plausible deniability that he might have had. Again, these threats aren't a bug, they're a feature. They are the whole strategy. And let's be clear, they've been the strategy. Back when Trump was indicted in the classified documents case, he issued a call to arms to his supporters ahead of his arraignment on federal criminal charges in Miami. He posted on Truth Social this post, "See you in Miami on Tuesday," which is an obvious provocation of his supporters, inciting them to go to Miami that Tuesday, where they would purportedly make their feelings about the arraignment known, and I'll just let you be the judge of what he was hoping they would do. And only weeks earlier, ahead of his arraignment in New York, he posted, "We'll be arrested on Tuesday of next week. Protest, take our nation back." Again, same playbook, different day. Donald Trump is not shy about trying to incite violent mobs to a specific place to do his bidding. Trump even tried to issue a direct message to New York law enforcement ahead of his indictment, saying, quote, "Can you imagine the great New York City Police Department, correctly referred to as New York City's finest, who for the first time and only time in history endorsed a president, me, and honored me as Man of the Year, having to defend and protect the defunders and cop haters of the radical left that want to put their greatest champion and friends in prison for a crime that doesn't exist. All the while, the Soros-backed DA allows murderers and other violent criminals to freely roam the sidewalks of New York?" In other words, he was signaling to New York City police officers that they shouldn't do their jobs and uphold the rule of law because if they're true Trump supporters, they should refuse to protect the people of New York from his potentially violent supporters. Again, all of this is just thinly veiled calls for violence. It is a pattern, and knowing what it resulted in on January 6th, only to continue to do it in Manhattan and then Florida and now in Washington, D.C., is all the proof you need that the violence isn't a fluke, it is the whole point. And those are just the physical threats. He's also made threats regarding political retribution.
And numbers are through the roof.
At the Stewart's Draft Baptist Church in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all here to worship together.
This Sunday service is led by a pastor who took the place of this pastor.
I don't want to start controversy. Apparently, God does. And I'm just the messenger.
Taking his place after this outdoor sermon during the worst of the COVID pandemic, just a few months before the 2020 presidential election.
Why will we not finally admit that we have put a liar in our White House? Why will we not finally admit that that is Antichrist?
And William Kopp, who'd been the spiritual leader of this evangelical Southern Baptist church for 14 years, wasn't anywhere near done talking about then President Donald Trump.
18,000 fact-checked lies in 1,100 days is more than just unacceptable. It is more than just sin. It is more than just wrong. It is demonic.
And then Kopp added this.
And you can't deny it because Jesus says it. And if you choose to deny that, then you choose to deny Jesus. You can't have it both ways. You can't support the lie and claim the truth. You can't support the Antichrist and support the Christ.
This is William Kopp and his wife Carol today.
After you made this sermon, what happened to you?
I was fired.
I knew when I heard it that we would not be staying at the church.
I want to say he was a friend.
Jim Brooks is a deacon at the church.
The thing that say he was a friend.
Jim Brooks is a deacon at the church.
The thing that got me was at the very end, Pastor Kopp said that if you voted for Trump, you are not a Christian. That was the biggest thing for me.
Within 48 hours, William Kopp says, the church leaders, including Deacon Brooks, asked for his resignation.
Is what you're saying, do you believe that people cannot be good Christians or thinking Christians if they support Donald Trump?
That's a real tough one. And probably that's exactly what I'm saying.
William Kopp says his sermon criticized other political and religious leaders too, and contends it was not a political speech, but a moral one. Sermons in evangelical churches combining politics, morals, and faith are far from rare. 2 days before the 20th, William and Carol Kopp have now moved to North Carolina and have joined a Presbyterian church, where he will occasionally fill in for pastoral duties.
What do you think the Lord thinks of what you said in your sermon that day?
Well done, my good and faithful servant.